right now you guys are all balancing on a drawer, so this is not going to end well. But so let's get into it. I feel like I should be making an effort. You won't always have to look at this. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Moving on. Welcome to my bedroom floor because, you know, change of scenery. I've been stuck in the bed, okay, so I don't want to sit in the bed anymore. Don't make me sit in the bed anymore, okay? Yeah, moving on. Anyway, I wanted to like make myself all cute and everything to do this video, but I don't have energy to care about putting things on my face. Yeah, because when you put things on your face, they have to come back off your face, and you know, it's a whole thing. So let's just not do that for now, okay? Okay, moving on. As you can see, I am still very pale. It's kind of annoying. It is what it is, and I don't really understand why I go pale. Is it an iron thing? Is it an oxygen thing? Is it I don't know. But I go really pale, and I'm already pale to begin with, and then I go even more pale, and it's like people look at me and like, didn't know you could go any more pale. I look like a dead person. Not right now, but like when I'm going through stuff. So I'm actually, this is good. This is a live person. Yeah. I'm definitely not 100% better, but I'm a lot better than I was. I'm not dying every day now. Well, that sun is bright. So I was gonna like show how healthy and well I am now, and like do like a video where I get ready and stuff, but to be honest with you, I'm still not good. Alright, the only way that I can tell I am getting better is I'm taking less medication and I'm not dying, so that's a good sign. That's a good start. By not dying, I mean I'm not going into a crisis. I mean, there's a few things, still breathless. There's a few things that we've changed since I was having a crisis every day, and that is to, my husband basically just lets me stay in bed until as long as I need, which has been wonderful. And he brings me smoothies and puts them next to my bed when I'm sleeping, and I take my medication as soon as I wake up. So that has been great. I haven't had to move, I haven't had to walk around, which has prevented any crises from happening in the morning. I haven't gone into a full-blown crisis since we started doing that kind of little routine. Poor guy. Anyway, the purpose of this video is not for me to sit here complaining, although it may seem that way, but the purpose is to actually talk about things that I've learnt that may help you or someone you know. I want to talk about what happened to me on day 4, even though I have a little bit of PTSD about that. I think it's important to talk about so that people who are in the same situation as me are aware of how serious it can get, and to not take it lightly, because that day, those moments, was the scaredest I've ever been in my life. You know, I've been through some stuff, so it was pretty scary. Our booster shots and when we're actually going to get those, and why we're not going to get them straight away. Breathless again. Yeah. I also want to talk about all my symptoms that I had, because I feel like I didn't do that very well in the videos because I was so focused on family and survival. Even if you don't almost die from COVID, it's still annoying, it's still a sickness, and there are things that can help ease that a bit. So I wanted to share that in this video as well. So let's get started. First thing we're going to talk about, things that I learnt. Like, you've heard all the things on the news, you've read news articles, but it's different when you actually live through it. Even though it was, you know, some similarities. Hang on, my plant's getting burnt. Oh. Even though there are some similarities between the flu and COVID, there are definite things that are very different, and I was not prepared for them. My kids did not want to eat when they had fevers, and that for some reason eating is brain fog. Eating is an issue for me. I don't know why it is, but when I see that my kids aren't eating, I kind of panic, like that they're going to, you know, get starved or something. Anyway, the best thing you can actually do is not force them to eat. So not eating is the body's way of slowing down the organs so that it can heal and all those things, from my understanding. Forcing them to eat was actually going to make their body work harder, if that makes sense. So as soon as I realized that, we were able to just rest more. We took medicines and we just didn't have to worry about forcing them to eat. And the same thing happened when I didn't want to eat. And on those days, instead of freaking out about it, I just decided to not eat and rest. And I think that actually helped my body to begin healing. I also learned about my lungs. Like, I did not know that the majority of your lungs are actually in your back, and that's why in the hospital they're facing them on their front. And I watched a YouTube video, I can't remember what it was, but basically they're explaining how lying on your front can actually help you to breathe better. And then I started doing that. I started lying on my front, or like reading books lying on my front instead of leaning back. And I found that I could breathe so much easier, and I can't tell you what kind of relief that was to just be able to take a breath. Like, it was still tight, it was still constricted, but to take a full breath was like such a huge relief. So going through this, if you're finding it hard to lie down or sit back and still be able to breathe, I highly recommend you try leaning forward, lying on your chest, maybe lying on a pillow with your head to the side. That was very helpful for me. Sorry, I'm so out of breath. I haven't talked this much in a while. So those are the two main things that I learned that actually helped me, my family and I. I had just assumed that the lungs wouldn't be an issue with this variant. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Maybe because they said it wasn't as bad, and I thought I automatically went to lungs as being, you know, something you need to live. So I don't know where that thought came from, but for some reason I thought that it wouldn't affect the lungs the same way. So I was not prepared for that at all. Both my son and my husband have asthma, and I had just assumed that it would affect their lungs because they did have those issues, but it didn't really affect them. It didn't affect my son at all. My husband had to take a little bit more, but just the same as if he had a cold or flu. So that was interesting that I ended up being the one with the lung issues. Story time. I want to start with my symptoms. So before I go into this story, I just want to put a little disclaimer on this. Like, if you are someone who freaks out thinking that this is going to happen to you when it probably won't, I would encourage you to click off now, because I do not want to be responsible for keeping you awake at night. No thanks. I'm purely telling what happened to me. Doesn't mean it's going to happen to you, but I feel like for the other people who can handle that, it will prepare you. I feel like this is important to share because there are a few things that actually helped me get through that situation without making it worse. So I want to share those things that helped. So day one, you noticed in the videos that I talked about getting breathless, like a tight chest. For all my adrenal insufficiency sufferers out there, you know what that feels like. It feels like someone is sitting on your chest, like a big fat person is sitting on your chest and they just won't get off. And you can still take a breath, but it's let me tell you, it's really difficult to get that full breath, and it kind of makes you panic sometimes. So I was having a few moments of that. I could no longer lie down, even from I think it was like that night I started getting, like, I realized that I couldn't lie down. So that wasn't great. Like I said in the videos, it felt like an adrenal thing because I was so familiar with that heavy, someone sitting on your chest kind of feeling. But this didn't go away. With adrenal, it kind of goes away when you take more medication and you recover. But this just was there all the time. All the time. Like, I could not take a full breath, or it was really difficult to get that full breath in. So day 2, I continued to have the chest, like someone sitting on my chest. It did not go away ever. I had breathlessness. It was getting actually worse. So instead of just being like a little bit annoying, it was kind of getting me into the panicky mode. And I was just trying to distract myself and just remembering to take deep breaths. And I definitely could not lie down. Sometimes not even sit back from day 2. Day 3, I had my first crisis. I like to call this my mini crisis because it was gonna get worse. I caught it in time. I took extra medication, which I really should have been taking extra medication from day 1, like a sick day dose, but I just didn't feel like I needed it, but I did. So don't be stupid like me and just take your sick dose. So I couldn't lie down, couldn't sit back, couldn't breathe when I walked around. I had a lot of low blood pressure, so all those great symptoms. Now, day 4. This was the scariest day of my life. And I don't think I've ever experienced something quite like it before. Like, not being able to breathe before. I've experienced that before, but not in combination with an adrenal crisis. So adrenal crises are scary enough by themselves, but I know that I pull through them if I get my medication quick enough. And I've pulled through so many, so it wasn't like that was the problem. The problem was the combination with the adrenal insufficiency and the COVID together with the lungs. So the adrenal crisis and the not being able to breathe. So I remember it was the morning. Ralph was having his worst day as well. He had full body aches. He was struggling to get out of bed. He had really bad headaches and just muscle weakness, and just really this was his worst day. Like, he could not function properly. So I knew that he needed to rest as well. I knew that he needed that time in the morning, so I got up because he so often lets me rest. And I forget where I'm up to now. I knew that he needed to have that rest time just as much as I did, because we both needed to function that day, because all our kids seemed to be better, except for Nara with a little cough, and that was it. And they were all bouncing off the walls and everything, which is always the way when the whole family gets sick. The kids always get better so quickly. Anyway, day 4, lying on the couch, wasn't feeling too great. Was able to push myself a little bit to get the kids some breakfast. I had taken my medication. I had made myself a smoothie and sat down in the lounge, and I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. When Ralph got up, I realized that I needed to take medication like straight away, like it was happening. And when I realized that, I know I only have like a few seconds before I pass out, so I got up quickly, probably too quickly. Ralph said I got up way too quickly, but how else are you meant to get the medication in time? Like, come on. And got the medication. Took a 20, which was my first mistake. I should have taken heaps more. But like I said, I was trying to keep to the same dose. I don't know why. I'm stupid. And I got the 20 into my body, but then I just slumped to the ground, like that slow passing out that I do, which is good, better than just, you know, like it was just kind of slow. And I was kind of able to rest my head and my body against bar stools in the kitchen, so I hadn't fallen completely over. I was like, okay, I've had a crisis, I've been here before. I kind of blacked out a bit, but my mind always comes back faster than my body. So when I'm not aware of something, I know that I've passed out, but it comes back, and then I start to realize, oh yeah, I've had a crisis. I try to keep myself calm, because if I freak out, that kind of makes things worse. So calming myself down in my mind, and Ralph obviously has a lot of body aches and a lot of pain, and he has to come over and help me, and he can't lift me. He's so, like, because of COVID, he's weak, and he went and asked Alyssa to go get their little skateboard thing so he could put me on the skateboard and wheel me. Oh, how embarrassing. It'd be funny if I wasn't dying. Alyssa runs and gets that, and he goes to lift me up, and when he goes to lift me up, he was holding underneath my underarms, and when he went to lift me up, my arms slumped and my body went down. Even then I can't breathe. My arms go up and my body slumps down, and my lungs just shut down. They just stopped working. Like, they just, I don't know how to explain it, but I was breathing like this. It was hard to breathe, but as soon as he did that, it just went, and I couldn't get them to open again. Like, I hadn't even taken a proper breath before that, and I couldn't take a breath, not even a little breath. I could not make my lungs move at all. They would not open up. And I'm at this point, he's holding me, and he's still holding under my arms, and I start to panic in my mind a little bit, going like, my lungs are not opening up, and I'm just like self-soothing myself, talking to myself, saying, oh, don't worry, you'll breathe soon, don't worry, they'll come back, don't worry, you're just in a little bit of a shock like right now, they'll come back soon, don't worry, it's okay. Like, this is what I'm doing in my mind, talking to myself. I wish I had some sort of profound thought, last minute thoughts, where, you know, you go through your whole life and you have an epiphany or something. I wish I had something like that, but no, I was just purely focusing on making sure that I wasn't going to freak out, which is a strategy I've learnt over the last year, because when you have adrenal insufficiency, and if you have a freak out personality like mine, you'll soon discover that you can't be that personality anymore, because your body just won't function anymore. Like, you need the cortisol, you can't have any stress in your life, or added stress. So I know that when I'm in situations like that, like an adrenal crisis, or I've hurt myself, I have learnt to stop and to not freak out over the pain or freak out about the situation, because I know that that makes me collapse even more, or go, you know, it's just not good. So even when I wasn't breathing, like my lungs would not open up, I went into that mode of, we're not going to panic now, you'll take a breath soon, it'll be okay, it will happen soon, don't worry, you're going to breathe soon, it'll happen soon. And it just kept going like that for about a minute. I could not get my lungs to open up for a whole minute, and Ralph knew by that point that I wasn't breathing. I was starting to, like, I'd moved past the self-soothing into full-blown panic mode. He said he saw the look on my face, it was just sheer panic, and I started to claw to try and hold myself up, because when you're having a crisis, you can't hold yourself up. Like, your blood pressure's dropped, so you need to lie on the ground. So I couldn't hold myself up, and I'm clawing at him, trying to get him to realize that I need to sit up, because I can't open my lungs. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know that sitting me up would help. He just knows that when I have a crisis, I need to lie down. And so he was trying to help me lie down, and I was trying to get back up. I was like clawing at his face and pulling at his shirt and just trying to get myself up so I could breathe. And he eventually figured out that I needed to sit up, so he's sitting me up, and I still can't fully, like, my lungs are still like clamped shut, not wanting to open, but they're moving a little bit when I'm sitting up, my neck's up like this. And I start just writhing, moving all over the floor, trying to get my lungs to open up, and they just won't open up. Like, they're just sealed shut. Ralph said it took about 2 minutes before my lungs would actually let me take a breath. That's a long time. It's a long time to not breathe. I haven't spoken to him about it since. I don't know what I looked like. I don't think I want to know. I'm sure I didn't look good. I'm sure I looked like pale, but just I remember that panic. And for the first time ever, really, I've understood that panic of suffocating. It was only 2 minutes, but I don't want to experience that ever again in my life. He finally got me onto the skateboard thingy, but in the process of moving me, my lungs shut down again, and he managed to get me to the lounge. He knew by this point that I needed to sit up to breathe, so he was sitting me up and making sure my chest and neck was up, and it passed so much quicker that way. I was able to start filling up my lungs again, but not fully. It felt like very like that kind of feeling where you can't fill up fully. And at this point he was able to get more medication into me, just kept giving me tablets. I kept drinking. I had finished my adrenal crisis, and usually when I finish the crisis I am very, very lethargic, I guess similar to some people who've had, like, I don't really know what to compare it to because I only know what I have, but you know how when people have like a epilepsy fit and they feel tired and they need to rest after that, I guess it's kind of like that. Yeah, I felt very tired and I was very twitchy, so my whole body twitches after I've had crisis. And the whole time I'm just thinking, what if that happens again? I'm dead. I'm dead if that happens again. That's what I just keep thinking. And for the next 2 days after that, that's all that was in my mind, because I still found it so hard to take a breath. And I think the next day was the day that we called the ambulance. So we didn't call the ambulance on that day because I'm really stubborn and I really don't like hospitals. And I'm stupid. That probably would have been the day that you should call the ambulance, but we didn't because I was breathing again. And does it really count as an emergency if you're breathing again? I don't know. Anyway, the next day it started to happen again, but I was in bed, so I was able to sit up. I had slept the whole night sitting up, so I was already in the position where I could breathe. But it started to happen again, and I could feel my lungs not wanting to work anymore, and I just kind of panicked a bit more than I would normally. So I had a pretty good crisis in the bed. So we called the ambulance and I was breathing, so naturally it's not the top of the triage or whatever they call it. So they came probably half an hour after that. They took all my vitals and everything was fine. The only thing they were worried about is the fact that I kept having these crises, but they couldn't really explain much about the lungs. I had a doctor's appointment that day online and with my endocrinologist, and she was constantly saying, like, you don't look good, you should probably go to hospital. And I just don't want to. I don't want to go to the hospital. So she gave me a new sick plan, a sick like cortisol medication plan to start doing, and that really helped. So I was taking, I had taken an 80 that morning, the next morning, sorry, and continued to take throughout the day as I needed, as I felt I needed. So I was taking a lot, more than I've ever taken in my life. I continued to do that for the next 3 days, and today is the first day that I've cut down my medication a lot. I have taken a 20 in the morning, 20 at lunch, and I'm going to take a 20 tonight just to prevent a crisis tomorrow, because normally I don't take at night time because it stops me sleeping. It's still stopping me sleeping, but what can you do? So we called the ambulance. Everything seemed to be fine. I could no longer function though. I could not breathe. Like walking around the house was too much. It's like it was too much for my lungs. All I could do was sit in the bed basically, and that was it. You've already seen that though, so I won't talk much more about that. I only started to get colour back in my face probably day 8, and I looked different in the mirror. Like, it's like I didn't recognize myself because I started to see colour again. Before that I kind of just looked like a dead person. I've been able to do more things, like I cleaned the toilets today. I had to take an hour nap after I did it, but I still did it. And we are slowly getting better. It just takes a long time. Anyway, so that's the end of story time. I spoke to the endo, and she doesn't think that the chest, shortness of breath and all that is because of the adrenal problems. She thinks that's purely COVID. So I have a few theories about why my lungs weren't working, and the first one is that because I'm an autoimmune person, I feel like maybe my body was attacking my lungs when I was trying to get better, or it was trying to prevent me from getting sick or whatever, I don't know. But I feel like it was an autoimmune response rather than fluid filling up or anything like that you've read about COVID. The second one is probably shock. I don't know how drastic shock can stop your lungs from working, but that might be a possibility as well. Number 3 is when I was a kid, even sometimes as a bit older, when I got really upset or when I got injured, I would just droop to the floor and lose all my colour and just stop breathing. Like, that is a thing that I've done since childhood. So, and it could be all of the above, or it could be something else, or it could be, I don't know. My lungs just decided it was too hard, and so they just wanted to stop working for a bit. From the article, What to Know About COVID-19 and Shortness of Breath, I looked up this article, I think day 6, and this was written in 2020. And this lady, Cameron White, wrote, "Some people describe feeling always out of breath. Others feel as if they cannot breathe deeply enough to take satisfying breaths." That was me. Both of those. When it is severe, the issue can cause a person to continually gasp or struggle to catch their breath. A person may also feel tightness in their chest, especially when trying to inhale or exhale fully. Some research indicates that difficulty breathing occurs on average 5 days after the COVID infection. Okay, and I also looked into COVID-19 causes shortness of breath. So shortness of breath, like some other COVID-19 symptoms, occurs because of how the disease affects the lungs. Normally the lungs take in oxygen with each breath in tiny air sacs called alveoli. Sorry. When the COVID-19 infects the lung tissue, it spreads rapidly and may affect the cells lining the airway, and the immune system responds by releasing cells that cause inflammation in the affected areas. When this inflammatory immune response continues to happen, it inhibits the regular transfer of gases, including oxygen, in the lungs, and fluid can build up. So lying on the front, they suggest lying on your front position on the stomach with the head turned to one side may help. This position can reduce weight of the other organs on the lungs, and the pressure from the gravity can help the lungs to expand. So I want to talk about some of the things that I used to help. So obviously massive pillows in my bed were a huge bonus because I could prop myself up. Yeah, that was kind of crucial to be comfortable during the night because you still need to sleep, you still need to recover. So having big massive pillows were great for propping myself up so I could breathe. Other things that I really liked using was the Yuki Bear chest rub. So much better than Vicks, and it works better than Panadol in clearing out sinuses and all that, like, you know how you get congested. So that was very helpful because the last thing you want when you have breathing problems is getting congested as well. I used a lot of nasal washes in the beginning. After day 3, I think, I kind of stopped doing it just because I didn't really get much of a cough, but it's sometimes useful for helping to clear out congestion as well, and even for the kids as well. The kids cough medicine did not work at all, and the only thing that we could get that would work, is probably bad, but when you're desperate, you're desperate. With Nara, she had like a croup cough, and the only thing that would help with that was the adult cough medicine. We just halved the dose and then halved it again, and that was the only thing that helped her. We used a lot of manuka honey just to build up immunity. I took a lot of ashwagandha because I was getting pretty depressed in bed, not able to do things, and yeah, that just helped keep my mind about me. Ibuprofen and paracetamol are essential for getting through this virus. The fevers can be pretty ridiculous, and yeah, you can't manage it without it, in my opinion. Now, I want to talk about booster shots. My endocrinologist was like, well, now you don't need booster shots for a few months. And that made me curious, like, oh yeah, that's a good point. We probably shouldn't waste a booster shot, getting a booster shot now that we've fought off COVID. So instead of getting it as soon as we're better, we're actually going to wait until it's a bit closer to winter time, because I know that after getting COVID, most people are immune for at least 3 months, sometimes longer, sometimes forever, but not everyone. And so we were thinking about getting the booster a lot closer to winter, because I know that the government was saying COVID's gonna just flare up during winter along with all the other flus and everything. So we decided to book our booster shot at the end of March instead of right when we were better, just because we're gonna need that protection during winter. Now, the reason for booster shots, why we're getting it later, they're saying that infections are gonna peak in winter. It gives them a chance to add other variants to that booster shot as well. After having COVID, you remain protected for at least 3 months. So we're going to get a booster shot. Then we're going to wait for the flu shot. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll be fully covered for winter the best we can. Another article that I read, Healthline, How Long Does Immunity Last After COVID-19? And this is written by Kathy Casata. There are some people who have the notion that after you've gotten a natural infection, you will be permanently protected against COVID-19, as if this were the measles. But the two viruses that cause these infections are very, very different. The coronavirus protection wanes naturally after a period of time. Infection does not provide good immunity against Omicron. In December 2021, a South African study, so the reinfection, they were studying the risk of reinfection from the Omicron coronavirus, and they were saying it's 3 times higher than for the previous strain. So you're 3 times more likely to get this variant again. So that's the reason why we are still going to get booster shots, but we're not going to get them straight away because we do have a little bit of protection at the moment. I don't really know how to end this video because I feel like there was a lot in here, probably too much. And I guess I just wanted to warn people the potential of this mild variant, and I'm so thankful that we were fully vaccinated, I am so thankful that I didn't have to go to hospital. And I wonder how long this shortness of breath is going to last. Like, I still can't breathe properly. I don't understand why. But yeah, getting better every day, getting stronger every day, getting more thankful every day. So there are lessons to be learned from this. The not breathing really threw me, really scared me. And I know that I'm not in control of even my lungs. I'm not in control of my body and my health. I hope this video was helpful. I hope that if you do go through the same things, that those very simple little tips that I've shared will actually make a huge difference, especially the one lying on your stomach. That was had the biggest impact on me because I could take a breath. Speaking of that, I'm probably gonna go do that now. Like, learn from my mistakes, okay? Don't be stupid. Go to hospital. Don't be so stubborn that you don't go to hospital when you need to go to hospital. Because I'm a special breed of stubborn. I'm gonna stop talking now. I'm gonna go lie down on my stomach and take some deep breaths. So, make sure you do have that Yuki Bear, paracetamol, adult cough medicine, and just be ready. Like, be ready for them to get wicked fevers and ridiculous coughs. But they recover. They seem to recover really quickly. That's another thing that I learned that I forgot to add in here. I fully expected one of my kids to have a really, really bad reaction to COVID and like develop an autoimmune disease or something, because that's how they start, you know, they start with illness. But they have fully recovered. Like, they are their true self again. Nara is into everything. She's breaking things again. It's just, she's her true self. Zai's fighting with everyone again. He has too much energy. He's his true self. Alyssa's cleaning the house again and bossing people, so she's her true self again too. So they've bounced back really, really quickly, which was one of my biggest fears of our family getting COVID, is that the kids that would get really, really sick and we'd have to go to hospital for them. I wasn't even thinking about. Anyway, the second biggest fear was my adrenal insufficiency. But I can't believe how well they recovered. So if you're a parent and you haven't gone through this yet, don't stress too much about your kids getting it, because most, like, obviously there's those cases that you hear of, but most of the time they recover so quickly. Like, it's ridiculous how quickly they recovered. Dear Hersey, based on the date you tested for COVID-19, you should be able to leave self-isolation on the release date. So I think they said that I'm allowed to leave on the 18th. Yeah, 18th. So that's, what day is it? I don't even know what day it is. Today is Monday. So I should be able to leave isolation on Tuesday, but I still have symptoms, so I don't know. I wish you the best on your health journeys, and I hope that you never experience this. Don't be stupid. Go to the hospital. Don't be stubborn like me. And yeah, until my next video, all the best in your health journeys. See you next time. Bye. When I can't breathe, when I can't bear to fight what's coming, you say don't surrender. I never will. I've seen you.